Hi, everybody. This is Trish Wood, and I'm speaking to you today on behalf of the National Citizens Inquiry into COVID-19, and proud to be doing it. We have some news for you today. We've got a list of cities confirmed, and we have two commissioners who've jumped on board to help us out with the project, and we're happy to announce who they are and to introduce them to you today. I just wanted to say a couple of words about who we are before we start, and why I personally feel happy to volunteer for this organization. Um, I feel like the country is a little bit broken after these 2.5 years, and part of it is that we were all, I think, damaged or hurt in one way or another, but living different media silos, right? And so, depending on what silo you were in, you may or may not have believed certain things about the virus, about public policy, about vaccines. And what that did was really tear us apart as a country. And that is, to me, one of the saddest things of all coming out of COVID-19. Um, so we hope that in giving the citizens a voice in this inquiry, bringing in some of the best experts in the world to talk to you about what happened and to debate what happened and to be questioned with some enthusiasm about what happened, that we can lay down a bit of a roadmap to the future, but also maybe encourage some healing about what happened and weigh if what happened was worth the pain at the end of the day that many of us felt on one side of it or another. So I feel like when our government asks us to maybe say goodbye to a loved one over an iPad or to stop attending church or all of the sacrifices we made, plus the people who lost loved ones from COVID, we really have to determine what happened here. And there has not been a lot of open discussion of both sides. And I think the Twitter files showed us that too, didn't they? So that is our mission. Please be kind to us. We are all committed to this with integrity and heart. We're all going to do our darndest to leave our own biases at the door. Who doesn't have a bias about COVID-19 at this point? If you don't have an opinion, you're not thinking, right? I mean, everybody in the country has an opinion, and so do we. And some of us have been more public about them than others. But that doesn't mean that in the cause of healing this, pulling families back together, fully understanding what it is to be Canadian in a time of crisis, that we can't, all of our wonderful commissioners and others who are taking part, park our biases at the door. And you have that commitment from us that is what we want to do. So hold your fire on that point and stick around and watch what we do and how we do it, because that's our commitment. The announcements today are that we have cities to announce. Truro is the 16th to 18th of March. Montreal is the 22nd to the 24th. We have Toronto, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, and Red Deer, and a couple of other cities out west that have not been confirmed yet. So that's where we are. Now let me introduce you to our two new commissioners. We have, I guess we'll go to Ken Drysdale maybe first. He is an executive engineer with over 41 years of experience as a professional engineer, including the development and management of national and regional engineering businesses. Hi, Ken, how are you?
There you go. I'm great. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. We're so glad you're here, and we're really happy to announce that you're going to be one of our commissioners. Let's talk about why you decided to take this on, because kind of a big, right?
Oh yeah, I'm like every single one of 38 million Canadians. We were all affected by both the pandemic and the actions that were taken in order to address that. Some of us were affected more than others. I witnessed it in my own family. I witnessed it in my community. I saw what I believed were inconsistencies in application of the measures that the government implemented. And I saw that not only happen in Canada, but I saw it around the world. You know, we saw the devastating impacts that those actions had on the population. There's anger in this country. You know, there's hurt. There's people who lost loved ones and could not say goodbye. Having observed that isn't necessarily a criticism, but having observed it means you have to start asking questions. And we all know that Canadians are asking questions. And to this point, there hasn't been a whole lot of balanced discussion gone on in this country. And so the citizens haven't had we don't believe that citizens have had their voices heard. And there hasn't been an opportunity for healing. There's just been two different groups yelling at each other. And so when I heard about the NCI and I understood what their mission was, I thought this is something that I had to become involved with. You know, I'm not just an engineer. That's what people always ask. You know, Ken, tell me about yourself. Well, I'm an engineer, but I'm also a father of 6. I'm a grandfather of 4. I have 2 darling godchildren who now are taking their place in society, and they're all asking me what's going on. So I have to become involved. I believe it was my duty as a citizen. And that's really why I've signed on and hoped I can help.
Good. Yes, well, that's a big point, is that I'm no spring chicken either. And before I peg out, as my crib playing grandfather used to say, I would like to have some idea what happened here, because my kids are asking those questions too. So thank you for agreeing to be part of it. What about you, Bernard? Why did you decide to take part? And I know you have a bit of a statement too that you wanted to give us, both in French and English. Thank you. You're muted.
Do you want me to start with a statement, or you want me to just give you my high-level raison why I decided to join the commission?
Why don't you give us your reason and then do the statement?
Well, a lot of what just Ken mentioned echo what my journey there, because you know, he's an engineer, I'm a scientist, so an engineer and scientists are asking questions about what's going on around us. And I'm also a family man that has his family life pretty much, I would say, turned upside down with a lot of the measure from government. So you really wonder what's happening, and was it worth it? I mean, could that be done differently? All kinds of questions that people are asking around me, and I experienced also the same issue with people, I would say, against each other, because they sort of park very, I would say, firmly on one side over the other, which to me is really unfortunate, because it brings another level of sorrow to this whole crisis, which is people are not open to listen to one another.
That's a perfect word, sorrow. I exactly agree with the use of that word. It is sorrowful when your friends and neighbors look at you differently because you disagree on something. The good faith we had as a country toward each other, right? He's a lefty, he's a conservative, but he's a great guy. Let's have a beer and go to a hockey game, or whatever the cliche is. That didn't happen during COVID-19, did it? And that was very scary for me. So do read us your statement, because I know you thought long and hard about it. It's important too.
Yeah, well, actually, I was asked to give some French statement, and I wanted to make sure that I was delivering my script in French. What I was going to translate in English would actually be the same thing, so everybody can actually access the same message both in French and English. So if you indulge me, I will have to read it, because I wanted to stay within the boundaries of the time that we are allocated, and make sure that my message is concise and precise.
And then we'll go back to you, Ken. Sorry, I'm just going to go back to you, Ken, before we go on to our media guest today. So sorry, go ahead, Bernard.
Okay.
Sorry.
So La raison d'être pour laquelle j'ai accepté ce mandat, c'est que j'ai été profondément perturbé par le manque de transparence et l'insuffisance de débats scientifiques et démocratiques, aboutissant à des lacunes dans la gestion de cette pandémie, notamment au niveau de l'analyse risque-bénéfice. The reason why I accepted the mandate is what I was deeply disturbed by the lack of transparency and the insufficiency of scientific and democratic debate, leading to shortcomings in the management of the pandemic, in particular with the level of risk-benefit analysis. En plus des souffrances causées par le virus, plusieurs se questionnent si les mesures sanitaires déployées n'ont pas aussi occasionné des blessures collatérales émotionnelles, physiques et sociales qu'on aurait pu éviter. In addition to the suffering caused by the virus, many are wondering if the health measure deployed have not also caused collateral emotional, physical, and social injuries that could have been avoided. La population a été sidérée par la peur et par l'anxiété, et cela a entraîné des fractures sociales au sein des familles et des communautés. The population has been stunned by fear and anxiety, and this led to social fracture within families and communities. Il est plus que temps d'amorcer le processus de guérison et de réconciliation qui passe nécessairement par un examen en profondeur des causes de la crise sanitaire et de l'impact, ainsi que de la pertinence des mesures mises en place pour mitiger les effets délétères de la pandémie sur la santé globale des populations. It's time to launch the process of healing and reconciliation, which will necessarily go through an in-depth examination of the causes of the health crisis, and the relevance as well as the impact of the measures put in place to mitigate the deleterious effect of the pandemic on the overall health of population. C'est mon souhait le plus ardent que ce processus de guérison et de réconciliation se fasse dans le respect, le dialogue et la communication non violente afin que nous sortions tous grandis de cette crise. It's my most ardent wish that this process of healing and reconciliation take place through respect, dialogue, and nonviolent communication so that we emerge from this crisis all grown up. Je suis honoré et reconnaissant à la Commission de me procurer l'opportunité de participer à cette enquête citoyenne essentielle qui permettra à tous de témoigner de leurs expériences et de partager leurs opinions sur ce qui devrait être fait à l'avenir pour améliorer la gestion de pandémies d'envergure similaire. I'm honored and grateful to the Commission for giving me the opportunity to take part in this essential citizen investigation, which will allow everyone to testify to their experiences and share their opinions on what should be done in the future to improve the management of similar scale pandemics. Je suis là pour apprendre, écouter et mettre au service de la population mon ouverture d'esprit et ma rigueur scientifique. Je tourne le regard vers l'avenir afin d'éviter, autant que faire se peut, la souffrance ainsi que les divisions résultant d'une polarisation qui a été exacerbée par l'absence de débat. L'heure est à la bienveillance et à l'humilité. I'm here to learn, listen, and put my open-mindedness and my scientific rigor at the service of the population. I look forward to the future to avoid, as much as possible, the pain and division resulting from a polarization that has been exacerbated by the absence of debate. It's time for benevolence and humility. Mon rôle sera d'offrir un espace de dialogue pour libérer la parole et bien écouter ce que les gens auront à témoigner afin de dresser le bilan le plus juste possible qui servira de base à l'élaboration de nos recommandations à la fin des audiences publiques. My role will be to provide a space for dialogue to free speech and to listen carefully to what people have to testify in order to draw up the most accurate assessment possible, which will serve as the basis for the development of our recommendation at the end of the public hearings. Merci pour votre attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernard, very much. Here, here. Final word to you, Ken, before we go to our esteemed visitors.
Well, I really look forward to meeting and working with the team. Bernard, we've known each other just a short stretch of days, and I know that we're going to be able to work together. There seems to be of like mind, and when I say of like mind, I mean of the respect for both science and to the citizens of this country. I believe we want the same thing, and that is healing, and that can only be accomplished through truth and reconciliation, which I hope will be the end result of this commission. Thank you, Bernard, and thank you for the commission for this opportunity.
Thank you both. So I do believe we have some media in the waiting room who have some questions for us. I'm not sure who to call on, though. That's not being communicated to me. So
if anyone would like to ask a question, could they please just raise their hand in the chat or in the Zoom?
there's Lee. Hi, Lee. You're muted.
I think you can hear me now. Could you speak to what the process was by which the commissioners were chosen?
It was a rigorous investigative process carried out, I think, primarily by our legal team, vetting them in very, very much detail for their, their integrity and their enthusiasm and their commitment to be able to ride this out with us. It's going to be a long haul, I suspect. So that's part of it.
Sure. Just wanted you to confirm to us that the recording of this will be made available to us right after the call, and that even the statement that was read earlier is going to be made available. I think we'd like that.
Well, I think this will be posted and available to you, and also we're happy to give you Bernard's words. Yeah.
Okay, great. I have nothing further for now.
Thanks, Lee.
Anyone else with questions? Please just raise your hand.
So while we're waiting on questions from anybody out there who wants to have one, maybe I'll just say a couple more words about my interest in this. And mine, I think it reflects what the two commissioners have said, has been about how this time feels different than other times when we've had crises in the country. I was around covering Tony Fauci back in the AIDS time in the 80s for As It Happens at CBC. And it was different then. The way we covered HIV was different than the way that COVID-19 is being covered now. All kinds of things were different then. So including the idea that then scientists debated one another quite publicly and still could be friendly later. It didn't seem to be this kind of high stakes, zero-sum game. I spoke to Jay Bhattacharya at Stanford recently, and whether you agree with what he said or not, he's having a difficult time there culturally and socially. It's been hard on him. There's been two, very rigid lines drawn between people who were maybe looking at the idea that we should be using something besides lockdowns and school closures, et cetera, to deal with COVID-19. So that feels different for me too. And I think we need to get to the bottom of that. I don't understand why that happened. And I know there's a lot of really esteemed people wanting to know why that happened. And so I think that's one of the things we're going to be looking at with some seriousness here. It feels like science has changed, is what I'm saying, and what constitutes science has changed. So.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Ms. Wood?
Joseph?
Hi, my name is Joseph Roberts. I published Common Ground magazine for 40 years.
Good.
And what I've been hearing from mostly from politicians who are actually going door knocking for some reason in my neighborhood, possibly they smell an election coming. I'm very independent. I am politically homeless. There's no one out there except for the people that are willing to tell the truth that I find good company with. There is this question of this sort of meme that's going around now that people are saying, well, we just got to get over this thing. We got to like get together, sing Kumbaya, share some marshmallows, and just wait for the next one to happen so we can do it better. There needs to be an accounting of who is responsible for this whole damn thing. And this is not a milquetoast, everybody's telling the truth. No, we need to have freedom to have the truth, just like in the reconciliation in South Africa and Central America. We need to know what is true and what is not true. The people that have been hiding the data from us, the people that wanted to have the data hidden for 75 years, Pfizer, for instance, and it took a Freedom of Information to squeeze it out of them to get some data that they were unwilling to freely share with us because they wanted to control the narrative and manipulate us. I've been studying the media for 50 years now. There's been a huge propaganda campaign. This has been rolled out in military style, and we, the people of Canada, have been the victims of it. There's, as to quote George Carlin, there's too much bullshit and it's not good for anybody. I organized the Walk for Peace back in 1982 in Vancouver, and 35,000 people came out finding common ground. So finding common ground is more than just like kissing and making up with everybody. There is a lot of damage that's happened. There have been people that were not able to see their loved one. I was on the phone yesterday talking to a woman who was crying to me that she wasn't allowed to go into an old folks' home to see her mother because she was not vaccinated. Even when she went to pick up the dead body, they were swarming her and demanding she do things in certain ways. We have a lot of people that drank the Kool-Aid. And I'd say, unfortunately, at least a third to half the Canadians drank the Kool-Aid, and they believed this. So we have to go beyond. I'm not interested in participating in a national inquiry if it's just going to be hugs and kisses. When murder and death has happened, when suffering and pain has happened, I want to see justice for the people that were coerced into taking the vaccination and are now crippled or dead. Okay?
Joseph, can I just interrupt you there? Because I don't want to cut you off, but I want to clarify something about what we're doing. I totally get what you're saying, right? There's enough pain, residual pain, to fly us to the moon and back on this. And we're not saying we're doing kumbaya. We're just talking about respect and integrity in a process that will meticulously lay out item by item, day by day, week by week, town by town, what happened, why it happened, and who the people were, right? Ours is
Who's
not
responsible?
that's
know,
what
I was, because my uncle was the immunization officer for the Port of Vancouver. I watched him die the last 3 years of his life of cancer. I drove him to the hospitals. He had the keys to the kingdom. He'd walk in and get a CAT scan by snapping his fingers. He didn't have to wait a month or 2 months to get things. So there are people who have positions of power. Like, for instance, you know, just to mention one name, Jerry Dias, head of Unifor, he took a $50,000 bribe from a company that produced COVID test kits. And what's happened, and forced all the unions to take the jab or lose their jobs. Okay, that person, to me, there is some criminal consequences in what's occurred here. Now, I don't know if you want to cover that as well or not. Are you going to look for who's responsible?
Well, yes, we'll be talking to people who will be naming names, but what happens at the end of that, this is a fact-finding exercise, and you can't have any of the stuff you're talking about without a fact-finding exercise, because as I said at the beginning of this, the news has been so siloed, right? It's been so, we can't even agree looking at a videotape of something if we're all seeing the same thing. We can't do that right now. We're all kind of crazy from the informational warfare. So what I'm asking you, Joseph, is if you could just stick with us and trust us and watch what happens and what is rolled out in a very, very careful and thoughtful way. That's what we're doing, is we're collecting information, and someone has to do that the way we're doing it. That has to come first, right? And then, I mean, I'm not being glib. I do want you to understand I feel your pain, but we have to do it in a certain way. And we've thought long and hard and talked about all the things you've talked about, and this is the first step, and that is all of us understanding what happened, because these two men and others like them are going to be on a commission asking. We're going to have cross-examination. We're going to be asking hard questions. We're going to have various exhibits and things too. So just stick with us. I get your frustration, but stick with us. We're doing our best.
Thank you, Trish. We have one other question from Angela Stewart with Bridge City News.
Hi, Trish. Thanks for taking my question today. I'm kind of hoping, when are you hoping that this inquiry report will be released to the public?
That's a good question. I'm thinking June, but I'm not. Did I read that this morning in my research notes?
Yes, likely an interim report in June, and maybe the final report after that, depending on the work of the commissioners.
Awesome. And then just kind of lastly here, what do you think your approach will be different than Preston Manning?
My approach, well, I am merely the spokesperson. So I take all the wonderful information these people give, translate it out to you when you need someone to talk to about it. I'm not in a leadership role in any way here.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Angela.
Are there any other questions? If not, I think we're almost at time.
Sure. I would like to know from Trish Wood and maybe the commissioners, how would you judge the success of this inquiry? What are you looking to have happen when this is over to say, okay, this is what we wanted to have happened, it happened?
Well, for me personally, and I know this is being discussed, I would love to have legacy media be part of it, both as covering it and also in giving witness testimony. I would love for them to come to the table. And I think secondly, for me, the issue is risk-benefit ratio on everything always. Why wasn't that taken more into consideration? Why wasn't risk stratification used more when they were trying to devise what NPIs they were going to use, including lockdowns? I don't understand that. You know, they never talk about the fact that if you're 75, you had a multi times more chance of dying of COVID than if you were a 30-year-old athlete, right? We were all treated the same way. So I want to know that. That for me is the risk-benefit analysis that was either done or not done, I don't know, is my, that's what I'm looking for in this. And I don't know. And if someone who is making those policies will speak to us about it, I would love to hear what they have to, maybe they were awake all night worrying. I don't know, but we don't know because they're not talking to us about it. It's an information void. We just don't know what public health was thinking and why. So I hope we can get some of that in the inquiry. Ken, do you want to take it?
What am I looking forward to at the end of this inquiry? I'm looking forward to an open discussion. I'm looking forward to folks being able to watch what we're doing and read the report and have some confidence, even if they disagree with what we're saying, but have confidence that it was done in a logical, straightforward, and non-biased manner. You know, that we, if we can, you know, I just look in the sorry, I'm not in this business, but is it the green room or the waiting room, Trish, that I'm looking at on my side screen here? I see everybody sitting there, and I don't see a single person in the legacy media here, despite the fact that the citizens are paying them. You know, we pay for the CBC, and unfortunately we're paying for the rest as well, but where are they? And I want to point out that this NCI, to my knowledge, is the first of its kind in the world. I'm not aware of this ever happening anywhere in the world, but it's happening in Canada. You know, Canada's taking a leadership role here. And where is our legacy media? So at the end of this, if we can bring them into the conversation as well, into an honest conversation with the people who are actually paying their salaries, and that's the citizens of Canada, then I think we've accomplished our task. And then the citizens of Canada will be armed with what they need in order to take action.
Bernard, last word to you answering Lee's question.
Well, I would come from a slightly different angle, but I would complement what Ken just mentioned, which is I'm very concerned about the quality of the scientific research in academia because people are not free to speak up. They've been censored. Some of them have lost their job. Same for medical doctors that wanted to put in place treatment that they thought were appropriate. They were threatened, and some of them actually did lost their job. So I am concerned about that because these institutions for the health of society. We rely on high quality research in academia. We rely on high quality medical treatment. And if they're not free to do the best they think needs to be done, because somebody in some central institution tell them this is how you have to do it, to me, it's a big concern. So I would like this kind of lock on the thinking in institution and the way the medicine is being practiced to loosen up. that would be for me a big success if we could actually initiate a movement where this thing they start to free up a little bit more, because right now it's not, it's worrisome. Let's put it this way.
Thank you. Nice to see you. So that's it for us today. Really nice to meet you. And you met Ken Drysdale and Bernard Massey, our two commissioners. We've got more to come, and we'll introduce you to them too. And let me see, I think we're just at the end going to go here to, I have to induce you to do some fundraising for us. So, and you can do that on our website, I believe. And also we have a petition there, so feel free to go there and do that. And it's the National Citizens Inquiry website's easy to find. And we'll be back soon with more information and commissioners and ideas and thoughts about what happened and what we need to do to feel better, because I think we're all a little down, and to pull together as a country again. See ya.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.